Very sturdy stuff. It seems. I'm not sure I'd fancy it on the high seas.
Last night, our one and only Christys, Mr. Emily Carver, was on the ground in Calais exposing the brutal truth behind the Channel migrant crisis.
Yes, he was busy speaking directly to migrants, many saying they expect the British public to support them once they arrive.
You want to come to England?
Yeah,
Why?
because here I don't have home.
Do you think that they give you money in England?
Yes,
Right.
yes, but I think they are give me England. They are give me money. You can help me anything. I can need you. Maybe you help me.
Well, Patrick even got the chance to see how these migrants make the journey over.
Very sturdy stuff. It seems. I'm not sure I'd fancy it on the high seas, but quite a soft bottom. So you've got the outboard motor here. The smell of gasoline. The smell of gasoline comes through.
Well, the Home Office has, of course, vowed to crack down on people smuggling gangs, smashing the gangs with counter-terror powers. But can they get a grip on this issue? And you've got Nigel Farage today talking about how we need a national emergency declared.
Yes.
Pressure is on.
Although, is that just words? I mean, surely it doesn't matter if we call it an emergency or not. Something needs to be done.
I mean, look what we did with the pandemic. I mean, calling it a national emergency.
Yeah, but then we passed legislation.
Declaring an emergency made it, happen quick.
I mean, well, the emergency legislation that gave the government powers to do stuff did that.
Should we see if Lord Warney thinks we need a national emergency?
Shall we? Lord Warney, thanks indeed for joining us. This is, of course, of huge concern to people up and down the country. One YouGov tracking poll this week put migration as the #1 concern for voters across the country. Is the government's smash the gangs approach enough?
It's necessary, but I think probably they would admit that it's not sufficient in of itself to get a grip of this problem. And this is a hugely difficult thing to tackle. There have been multiple governments in recent years who have tried increasingly hardline approaches, and none of it has really shifted the dial yet. I hope that...
But have we taken, Lord Warney, sorry to interrupt, have we taken, hardline approaches, or has there only actually been hardline rhetoric? I mean, you had Suella Braverman, when she was Home Secretary, talking about an invasion. You've had other politicians talking about this, Keir Starmer sounding very tough. But has the action actually followed the rhetoric? Because I think that's dangerous when politicians talk about something in a tough way, but then the actions don't match.
Yeah, I think that's a fair challenge, and certainly more and more radical and tough solutions have been put on the table. And I think probably now it is the moment. And I am, reluctant to say this, but certainly as someone who's been on the centre and left of politics over many years. But I think when you look at a former Labour Home Secretary like Jack Straw, who said, no, we do probably need to look at human rights legislation again and understand why it is that the UK is, one, so relatively attractive for people to come over, and what is stopping the volume of removals that would need to be needed to, one, reset the balance, and two, provide the genuine level of deterrence.
Well, Lord Warney, isn't it fairly obvious what's stopping?
Patrick is clearly showing it is not fully getting through at the moment.
But Lord Warney, isn't it pretty obvious what's stopping the removals that many people would argue are needed? The people that Patrick spoke to last night come from countries that no court in this land would determine to be a safe country. I mean, if people come from Sudan, which has a civil war, if people come from the warring tribes in Somalia, if people come from Syria, if people come from Iran, if people come from Afghanistan, there's no way a court in the land would allow the British government to send people back to those countries, riven with dictators and warlords as they are. Surely the only way to send people anywhere who come from those countries is to a safe third country.
Yeah, you may well have a point on that, and I think the government needs to be looking at all options, including that kind of scheme, which, you know, they just probably need to front up that they were against it in opposition. I think for good reasons. In that the Rwanda scheme, as it was negotiated, it sounded really groundbreaking and tough, but actually was not extensive enough and did not provide the deterrent that was needed.
Well, it never got going.
Actually, a workable scheme at the time, but yes. We need that. I'm afraid. I think that kind of thing needs to be back on the table. And if it is the case that our suite of legislation at the moment effectively makes it too difficult and too slow, even to remove people to that relatively safe third country option, then it's right that we look at that suite of legislation again.
OK, well, Lord Warney, thank you very much indeed, a peer and former Labour MP. I mean, the thing is, it's true that our courts won't send people back to countries that are deemed unsafe. But other European countries are doing it. Germany sent back Afghanis to Afghanistan recently because, you know, things have changed in that country. And their original reason for hopping over here to Europe no longer existed.
Yeah, I wonder.
You know, I
wonder if there is a court in the land that would accept the Taliban as running a safe country.
No, we take these conventions. You have to get rid of the ECHR, don't you? Really?
Well, it's not just the ECHR. I mean, it's the 1951 UN Convention on Refugees that enshrines as the core principle of that agreement that we're all signed up to as non-refoulement, i.e., you can't send anyone back to somewhere they might be unsafe.
Absolutely. But I think that definition is very much stretched in the current global circumstances, where most countries, the vast, vast majority, are less safe than the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
So there you go. I think you can get asylum in this country from all sorts of different countries that you wouldn't expect.
Certainly been proven.
Follow me inside here. So we are just outside the Calais port, and what we've got is a disused warehouse that, if you follow me inside here, is absolutely full of migrant tents, illegal migrant tents. This is a room full of people from Sudan. I've been speaking to a lot of them. They say that they are desperate to come to Britain. Now, what we're looking at here is a group of people who can't really afford the continual boat journeys. So this is near a lorry port in Sudan, in Calais, full of people from Sudan. And the reason that they're here is because you don't have to pay anything to try to climb into the back of a lorry. If we walk through, I've never seen anything quite like this in my life. It's like a patchwork quilt of people just living here permanently. And this is the reality of the situation. Now, I just want everyone at home to understand that every single person in this room is absolutely desperate to come to Britain. The only reason they are here is to try to come to Britain.